What's going on, everybody? Perry up in the front this time, Eric there in the back. And we just got done seeing Malignant, which is directed by James Wan. And, what even was this movie?
It was a lot. It was a lot of wackiness and fun. That's what it was.
It was trying to be a lot of things.
I can agree with Eric, and I can agree with Perry. This is such a weird movie, and it's kind of hard to even. It's kind of difficult to even know where to start with this film. But what I will say is, just right out of the gate, don't go into this film expecting something like The Conjuring, because it's so different from anything that's like that. This film is, if I had to describe it, it's kind of a, like Eric kind of said, like wacky, fun, B-grade type of horror movie that still attempts to be a genuine horror movie and a serious kind of movie in different ways, and still commits to what horror fans really like out of a horror movie, whether it's body horror, whether it's gore, whether it's the paranormal. This movie is it's so all over the place with its tone, in my opinion, but it's all very intentional. And honestly, the opening scene of this movie, I was almost in awe in terms of just how just flat out dumb and stupid it was. And I did not expect that at all. And I honestly thought it was going to be a gag. Like, I thought like some character in the movie was just watching like a movie or something like that, and that's what we saw in the beginning, like some dumb movie. But no, that was legit the opening scene of the movie, and that just kind of really caught me off guard. And just know that this film it's in terms of its tone and in terms of its style and approach with horror, it's definitely trying to be over the top and fun, while at the same time trying to be like a genuine horror movie. And it's hard to even say whether I like or dislike it, because I feel like I'm a bit in between. But I'll save the rest of my thoughts. But yeah, what I'll say is, don't go into this film expecting honestly anything that you've seen from James Wan. This is something that to me is a lot different from any of the horror films that he's done before this. But yeah, that's what I'll say right now. Go ahead, Perry.
Yeah, in preparation for this review, I actually watched The Conjuring 1 and 2, which I've never seen before this morning. And like Carlos said, this is wildly different from James Wan's previous horror film. This film, like, my biggest issue with this film is it lacks an identity. It's ambitious in the sense that it tries to be so many different types of horror subgenre, but for me the film never really meshes. It never really gel. It's like certain scenes I felt like it wanted me to take it seriously, and then certain scenes it obviously didn't. But the thing is like, I didn't find it to be like a fun, campy horror film, and I didn't find it to be like, when it was trying to take itself seriously, to like actually be unsettling. The film was just kind of a flat line for me, despite it being like so outlandish, because it tries to be, at first you think it's just gonna be like a rehash of The Conjuring. But thankfully it isn't. I will give the film props for that. It's not just a cheap rehash of James Wan's previous horror film, but it's like, it tries to be a demonic entity horror film. It tries to be a slasher. It has elements of body horror, and it just doesn't come together. And logistically, a lot of the twists and turns that the film takes makes absolutely no sense. I mean, I get that it's not supposed to, like, it's supposed to be like a fun, campy horror film, but there's certain things that I just couldn't get behind, because I felt like there was moments where the film still wanted me to take it seriously, even when it, like, completely goes off the rails. I mean, for me, like, the biggest issue is, like, the script. I really didn't like the script of this film. Like I said, it lacked an identity, and the characters are very like one note, very one dimensional. They all felt like cartoon characters, And at first I didn't know if that was supposed to be the point, but then it reached a point in the film where it's like, oh, so that was supposed to be the point. They were supposed to just be like goofy cartoon characters, and I wasn't supposed to take any of this seriously. So it's like, this film is mismarketed, and I feel like I may have gone into the film with the wrong mindset. But even with all that said, I still didn't enjoy this film. I mean, honestly, there was a point where I just like checked out, where I was just kind of done with the film. It obviously clearly didn't know what it wanted to be, and I didn't see much of a reason to, invest myself in something that so clearly lacks an identity. But I'll pass it on to Eric for now.
All right, yeah, it's time for Eric to talk, but try to speak up a little bit because you are in the back, and sometimes I have a hard time hearing
And
you.
the AC's on.
By the way, Jen's back there too, so anybody who's watching it and they're like, who the hell's that back there? Well, that's Jen. She just prefers not to be on camera, so it's fine. But,
I guess I'm the only one in here who genuinely really enjoyed the movie. I mean,
I enjoyed it.
I'm glad, but yeah, I don't really agree with the whole like identity crisis thing. I feel like this movie has like just like a progression that just like flows into different like genres of horror films, but it's not so jarring to me. I don't know what to say. Like it doesn't really fall apart for me, and I could see a horror movie really doing that. There is one movie I really think about while watching Malignant, and that's Drag Me to Hell. I feel like if you can really enjoy Drag Me to Hell, you can really enjoy this movie. And I love Drag Me to Hell more, but Malignant's, like I said, kind of in the same vein. It's not as strong as like Sam Raimi, but honestly, there's some really good like direction and like camera movements like a Sam Raimi film. I really got a lot of like Raimi vibes from this movie. But don't worry, there are other things I don't like about this movie. Like there's some like genuinely just garbage acting in this movie.
Yeah.
Like some of the side characters, their dialogue is absolutely laughable and unbelievable.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's kind of hard to tell, like, and that's one of my main issues with the film is that it's all over the place with its tone, that sometimes you don't know when you're supposed to take it seriously or just laugh at it. Like some of the corny dialogue and bad acting, I'm like, is it supposed to just be like a homage to cheesy dumb horror movies or something, or am I supposed to take this seriously?
That's how I feel.
It's interesting because I don't have that issue. There were times where the movie, like, I know it was trying to take itself like seriously and trying to be dramatic.
Yeah.
And they'll say something that's like supposed to be like dramatic and tension building, and I'm just like,
but the first 15 minutes were just so laughable as like a fake movie.
Well,
but then it tries to take itself seriously by diving into like domestic abuse and having miscarriages. Like,
well, that's the thing.
That's so inconsistent to the like first 15 minutes of the film that were just completely laughable.
But that's the thing. I think that the beginning was trying to take itself seriously, and it was just bad. So I don't have the issue where like, oh, I don't know what to like laugh at, and like with the film or at the film, like I just thought the first 10 minutes it was trying to be serious, and it was like all the acting was like really fucking bad, and like it just wasn't scary at all. But I'm agreeing, like the beginning sucked. It was awful.
But I think it's weird because I personally think it was intentional. Like, because it's so bad. And it's so obviously like on the nose bad with like the dialogue and just overall how it's done, that I'm like, this has to be intentionally bad.
I really believe in my heart that it wasn't.
Anybody in the comment section who's seen it, let us know what you think.
Well, whether it was intentional or not, it still didn't work for me.
Yeah, I agree.
I hated the first act of this movie.
The first act, really, just I don't want to dive into spoilers, but the whole act that like sets the movie in motion, like with its storyline, like I really enjoyed that stuff. I thought like the first like big like supernatural like events with the main character, like the suspense
building and stuff in the first act and the horror in the first act, I actually really liked.
But it gave me no reason to care about the character. I mean, obviously this is totally a very different film from The Conjuring, but it actually like The Conjuring like actually made me care about the family and care about the Ed and Lorraine Warren. I didn't give a shit about any of the characters in the movie.
I cared about the main
especially
character.
the lead.
I like the main character.
But I'm saying the film gave me no reason to care for, other than, she's pregnant and she's had a lot of miscarriages, and
don't worry, it's not a spoiler. They literally tell you in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
I mean, like, is that not reason to care? I don't know. But I sympathize. Not because I'm a woman.
No. I mean, I sympathize with that, obviously, but I feel like it's kind of like that's the only real thing device they use to make you care about the character.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I do have a criticism with the main character. I like her acting, I like her performance in the movie. My problem is, they didn't give the main character any breathable room to be anything else but distressed and miserable, but not in a so effective dancer in the dark, that's the point kind of way. It just the only expressions this character has is despair and screaming and agony and scared. They really didn't give her any other character traits that makes her flesh out and gives her an identity outside of this movie. So I guess in a way you could argue she's not a greatly written character, but I just enjoyed the performance, I guess.
She was fine, but her performance didn't really do much for me. She did the best she could with the material she was given, but I didn't think her performance was anything that noteworthy.
The husband character in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
What a cartoon!
I thought it was cartoony.
I agree.
It was It Chapter 2 cartoony.
Yeah, I was this is
his acting was really bad, and he was. Yeah, he
it's
did
the direction
feel
too, though. I mean, the direction definitely could have made it not the case, but I think once he does what he does, I kind of got engaged a little bit more. I was oh shit, they kind of went there with that. So I started getting engaged more, and I do agree with Eric. I think the horror, especially in the first act of the movie, I think was pretty well done in terms of the camera work, in terms of how it's all shot. This is really awesome shot in the first act of the film. It's this really cool overhead shot that it's something you see out of a Gaspar Noé film or something. And I thought it was really, really cool.
That was my favorite shot of the film. Definitely the best shot of the film, in my opinion.
So this film does have its strengths.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Perry definitely dislikes it more than both of us, but I'm still trying to think about where I fall in it, because I do like it because it does have plenty of strengths, but there are weaknesses to this film that I can't just ignore. But one thing that we have to talk about that we haven't talked about yet is the score. How do y'all feel about the score?
It was overbearing.
It was so overbearing.
It was pretty overbearing.
No joke, in the soundtrack, there was whenever there would be a big plot reveal, they would play a synth remix of Where Is My Mind? And I was, every time they did it, I was literally groaning. I'm oh my, this is what y'all thought would be a good y'all thought this would be a good idea to incorporate this in this film. It took me out every time.
Because again,
normie audiences need their fucking handheld apparently to know what emotion to feel.
But what's crazy is the score of the movie being so overbearing. It had a bit of synth to it, and I even leaned over at Eric and I'm are we watching the card counter?
Film we just watched, by the way.
That one was way more subtle.
Yeah, but here it was it's every single plot reveal, every single kind of scary moment, even if it was a subtle scary moment, you just have overbearing synth zoom, 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 zoom. I'm
yeah,
it's trying to be
I didn't like the score either.
It was trying to be again, I guess it was a homage to 70s cheesy horror or something like that, or 80s horror. But
80s horror,
I heard someone try to say that the film, I read a review saying it was an homage to a Giallo film. I really didn't get that from this movie.
I can kind of see it, honestly.
I can see it a little bit in bits and pieces, but again, just so many different horror subgenres shoved into one movie, and it just doesn't mesh.
I like how it goes all the way with a lot of the body horror.
I was gonna mention that, yeah.
And it was just again, it gets to a point where this is a straight like action horror gore movie. There's like a full-fledged action scene in the third act of this movie.
I thought it was fun as fuck.
I was like, damn, that was like wild.
In a strange way, it was kind of a culmination of James Wan's career, because he combines horror with like his action movies, and it's like he's trying to do both here. Yeah. And whether it works for you or not is entirely up to the viewer. Personally, it didn't work for me.
I enjoyed it very much, so.
I mean, I don't know. This is a film that I can already see is probably going to be a mixed bag for a lot of people. This is not going to be something that is like a crowd pleaser like The Conjuring. This is something that people are all going to walk away from thinking like totally different things. And that's just the nature of this film's approach. And I get I wasn't supposed to take it that seriously, but it just did not work for me at all. I mean, I didn't find it to be at least a bit fun. Like, I just thought I was pretty bored through most of it. So yeah,
that's so interesting, because I was entertained the whole way through.
Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest positives I can give it, is that I actually thought it was pretty entertaining. I mean, it has spots where I'm like, I kind of don't care, but for the most part, like the majority of this film, I actually was pretty entertained. So
yeah, there are like dramatic scenes, and there is like, whether you think it's like depthful or not, there is like purposes to what's happening. And but I feel like the movie doesn't linger too heavily on those, and it is more reliant on like the selling point of the movie, which is like the horror, which I really enjoy. That the movie is at a pretty quick pace the whole way through, and it's very like entertaining. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it's also, again, like, this is not your normal Hollywood horror movie. This is clearly the studios gave James Wan full freedom to do whatever the fuck he wanted.
Yeah, because everything he makes like makes fucking bank.
Yeah.
So he was just like, fuck this Conjuring shit, I'm gonna make something different. And I'm so happy he did, honestly.
I mean, we got something that was interesting. That's at the very least you could say that.
I said it's interesting. I said I like the fact that he tried to do something different. It just doesn't work for me personally.
And I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's fair, because this movie is fucking out there.
It's flawed. It's out there. Because obviously I don't think this movie's not perfect.
I mean, I do like the body horror stuff. Like, I don't want to say like I don't want to sound like overly negative on the film. I do like the body horror stuff, and yes, the film did keep me guessing. But I mean, like, once you find out like the big reveal, after that, like, the film just kind of teeters out for me. Like, I just stopped caring. It's funny because this movie's only like 2 hours, but to me it felt a little bit longer than that, and it got to a point where I just didn't care about what was going on screen.
By the way, there was one person in the theater with us. One person.
They were on their fucking phone.
They were on their phone for like the majority of the film, and then they walked out halfway through.
Yeah, they were like, fuck this. It's like, why'd you even bother to come to the movies then?
It's one thing, it's like, oh, he was closely focusing on the film and he just didn't like it, but it's like, you weren't even giving the film like your full attention.
Yeah, and his brightness was like up. He just did not give a shit.
And it's like, if you're gonna be on your phone, why would you sit in like the very front row in the middle where we can clearly see your light? Like, you could at least like sit in the back. Like, there was only one other person in there besides us, and it was the guy on the phone. He could have moved anywhere in the theater and like sat behind us. That way we didn't have to look at his fucking screen.
He was an older guy too.
Yeah, I was just about to say, he wasn't a teenager.
He looked like he was like in his late 40s or some shit.
No excuses.
No, it's not an excuse at all. He's probably just went to the theater to escape his like depressing marriage or something like that.
Probably.
But anyway, yeah. Did y'all want to say anything about it else before I give my rating or give our ratings?
Not really.
Not really.
We said, okay. We've all said what needed to be said. So, as I said, this was a film that I came out of it like, what the hell do I really even say about it? Where do I even stand on it? Because I was thoroughly entertained by it, but at the same time, it does have a lot of weaknesses, and I did have plenty of moments that I was just like, I was laughing for better or worse. Like, some things I didn't know if I was laughing because I was supposed to laugh, and some things clearly were meant to be kind of like silly and funny, and I was laughing. So it was just such an odd, unique type of film that I didn't really know how to feel about. But after it's all been said and done, I think I'm gonna give this film a very soft 6 out of 10. So it's enough for me to tell you guys to go out and watch it and develop your own thoughts on it, because I do think it has the potential for you guys to enjoy it if you gave it a shot. So that's what I'll say about it. Perry, go next. Oh, you go last.
Yeah.
Really? Okay,
I always
and then
go
Eric, you go.
Okay. It's kind of interesting because from my track record of like all the horror movies that we review, I feel like I'm the one who's mostly negative on like the vast majority of them. I didn't like Us. Obviously, I hated La Llorona.
0.5 out of 10 for that.
0.5 out of 10.
Yeah. But no, this is. I really enjoyed this one. I loved that it was different, and I can definitely get down to like 80s kind of cheese homage. And like I said, if you like Drag Me to Hell, you'll probably end up liking this. But I'm gonna give this movie a soft 7 is all I'll give it.
Soft 7 out of 10 for Eric.
Yes.
That was higher than I expected. Honestly, I thought y'all were both going to come out of this film like completely hating it. So it's really cool that Eric at least kind of likes it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things I definitely liked about the film. I'm not going to dog on the cinematography because I do think it's pretty well shot for the most part. A lot of interesting camera angle choices, and the direction's pretty solid. Like I said, it just boils down to the writing and acting that didn't work for me, and tonal inconsistencies, and to me a lack of identity. And I can get down with the 80s B grade like homage film, but this just didn't do it for me. I'm gonna give this a mid 4 out of 10.
Damn.
Yeah.
Mid 4, which honestly, I'm not even really offended by that for this movie.
I mean, I definitely do think people should see it just to form their own opinion.
It's on HBO Max.
Yeah, it's on HBO
Yeah.
Max, so what you got to lose, except a couple hours.
All right, that's all we got to say about Malignant. Again, don't go into this film expecting The Conjuring. Just go into this expecting kind of like its own unique kind of thing. But
Oh, and we just posted a review for the card counter.
Yes.
So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out and make sure to give that video a like.
yes, if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then fuck off. I'm just kidding.
Or just like it anyway, regardless.
Yeah, just give us a like.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, thank you so much for hearing what we had to say about Malignant. If you really enjoyed what we had to say, please give it a thumbs up, share it amongst your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content. Peace.